My name is Jason Siers. It is S-I-E-R-S. I am the Senior Chief Deputy District Attorney for the 18th Judicial District assigned to Douglas County. Today, the court declared a mistrial in the People v. Gamez-Ruiz trial. The court found that an officer testified yesterday in response to my questions to a fact that had not been contained in his report. The court found that that information should have been provided in discovery prior to his testimony. As a result, then the court did declare the mistrial. We are set next week for a resetting of the trial date. Frankly, very disappointed in where we're at today, very disappointed in this outcome. We wanted to get this case to the jury and let the community decide these very serious, very important charges. We really thought we were going to get there this time, and frankly, very saddened about where we're at right now. Truly extend my sympathies and apologies to the family and the members of the State Patrol for the harm and the pain that this has caused them. But at this point, we are set next week to reset this matter for trial. Hopefully we can get this matter to the jury and to a just and righteous verdict.
There was also a statement that was sent over by Velma Donahue, the widow of Trooper Cody Donahue. Did you guys get a copy of that?
I'll pass it on after you.
Okay. And I was asked to read this. The family is devastated by today's outcome. We are angry and hurt that the justice system is failing to provide justice for Cody. The men and women in law enforcement deserve protection, support, and knowledge that the laws in place are there to protect them while they protect us. Please remember to move over for Cody. Velma Donahue. Yes, what questions do you have?
The defense says that the prosecution's treated their client unfairly. Is the prosecution at fault here?
I think those are two separate questions. One, I absolutely dispute the notion that we're treating their client unfairly. Look, the allegations here, and he remains presumed innocent of those crimes until a jury is able to render a verdict. But the allegations are here that because of his conduct, we lost a state trooper, a father of two, and a husband who was killed by that conduct. I do not think that the way we've approached this case is in any way unfair. The other question, though, is, hey, are we responsible for this outcome here today? And we are responsible for this outcome here today in this way. As the district attorney, or as any prosecutor on a case, we're responsible to make sure that all the information that we're going to end up presenting at court is discovered and provided to the defense in a way that it might make a difference. Now, I will tell you, I don't think that this fact is going to ultimately be of any significant consequence in the case moving forward, but to the extent that law enforcement failed to provide a piece of information that we didn't further explore, discover, and turn over to the defense, and we inquired about it in court, yeah, I accept the responsibility for that.
George,
yes?
This happened the first time. How could it happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that in circumstances like this, I mean, this certainly was unanticipated. In fact, if you listen to the court's findings today before declaring a mistrial, they said, I don't think the prosecution knew anything about this, and they certainly seemed surprised by the information as it came out in court. I mean, listen, I've only been doing this about a quarter century. This is not an error-free business as much as we try to minimize those errors, and that's why you have mistrials and things like this, and that is to say, if there is an error, what can we do to make sure that we preserve a person's constitutional rights as we go down this road? Anyway, it's regrettable, and it is something that I am extremely disappointed in and frustrated by, but we're going to continue to move forward and try to get justice in this case.
Was that information that was failed to be turned over to the defense that a reenactment of the accident had occurred and it showed that the truck swerved on its own to the right?
No, that's not accurate. None of that information. Yeah, my guess is you got that information from the other side who wants.
I can reveal that.
Yeah. Shocked. No, the information, my understanding is, that came out was that the deputy who was assigned to pull the truck out of the guardrail after the collision and drive it away made the observation that while he was driving, that he could feel that the car was tending to drift or to pull to the right. Now keep in mind, the disclosures that he made in all of his investigation and his reports included the fact that the steering wheel was out of alignment, that the wheels were out of alignment. The one thing he didn't say was, this truck felt to me like it was pulling to the right. That is the singular fact that led to, in my opinion, where we're at today.
Was there a reenactment?
I don't think this was part of a reenactment, but Jason?
That deputy did drive that truck on that occasion, and yesterday during the testimony did say he had felt that pull of the wheel during that reenactment part. So that was part of the testimony that was yesterday.
Had this not happened, do you think you would have gotten a guilty verdict?
Yeah, that's one of those things I don't get to speculate on. I can tell you we wouldn't be here today if we didn't have a good faith basis to believe that the person we accused of a crime was guilty of that crime. But ultimately, that's why we have our day in court. We put on the evidence and let the jury decide. And that's still where we're struggling to get right now, is we want to put on this case in front of a jury of people from this community, the community that lost Trooper Cody Donahue, and have them weigh in on what the right outcome is.
How rare is it for this to happen a third time? A second time going into a third trial for the same defendant?
Exceedingly rare. Exceedingly rare. I've never had it happen in my career ever.
Why do you think it happened here?
I mean, I can only speculate. I mean, there are things that are known and things that are unknown, and the question for us is, what is it we did or didn't do to put ourselves in a position to know about this fact before it was revealed in court? And that happens from time to time. Most times it's a negligible consequence and it's not a material fact. Sometimes it turns out to be something like this, where I think in an abundance of caution, the court made the decision it thought best to protect the integrity of the case. And I respect that decision. Very disappointed.
What
Judge, I know
happens
you
next?
apologize to Velma and her family, but
Yeah.
your concerns over putting them through a third trial, the third time we're doing this.
Yeah, listen, anytime this community loses someone to crime, and it becomes our responsibility to try to get some type of justice out of that death, out of that loss, and we end up in a position where we're not able to do that, even temporarily. And we've asked them to get themselves geared up, to steel themselves to this unforgiving, merciless process. And we can't get a result, can't get an outcome. That's frustrating. That it happens twice, and not just to any other member of our community, but a member of our law enforcement family. Yeah, that is a soul-sucking outcome, man. And it is very difficult, having spent the last 2 years getting to know Velma, Cody's sister too, and their daughters, and to see the courage that it takes them to get themselves ready to go through this process. They're wondering the same question too. What's a jury going to do with this? And to get to the point where you have to explain how we're not going to get to that outcome today, that we're going to have to wait, and that in large part the reason for that delay is attributable to us. Yeah, buddy, that sucks. That really sucks. That hurts.
Is there a limit on number of mistrials you can have?
No, I mean, technically speaking, it isn't quite like that. I mean, how many holding penalties can a team have in a football game? And there's no limit to it. But you know, what we're going to find out from the judge next week is when the new trial date will be set. And then my presumption is whatever sanctions she considers for however she weighs this violation, we'll get to know that in the near future too. So I don't know the answer to it. I mean, look, the bottom line here could be anything from the mistrial itself is its own kind of sanction. It could be to striking a witness, reducing a charge, limiting a sentencing range, could be dismissing the case out entirely. I don't expect that. That's an extreme outcome, but I suppose that could happen. I mean, at the end of the day, too, remember, the court didn't find that we hid something or we knew about something and didn't reveal it. It wasn't like that. The court said, hey, I agree the DA's office wasn't given this information. That's not enough of a check to guarantee that everything gets done right in a case where you're accusing someone of a crime, and I totally respect that decision.
Was this an accidental failure to disclose?
I mean, accident is probably the only word you can come up with, because if we don't know about it, we can't turn it over, right? I mean, if it's something that's unknown to us, it's kind of hard to even try to hide something like that. So it was, and again, I think at the end of the day, when we get back in court in front of a jury, we'll have a better understanding of whether or not that was a consequential thing or not. But at the moment right now, it's just frustrating.
What sanctions were put in place as a result of the first mistrial?
I think the sanctions in the first mistrial were a limitation on the sentencing range that would be imposed upon a possible conviction, something like that.
In layman's terms, can you just rephrase why the second mistrial?
Yeah, there was a deputy who was charged with, I think, investigating the vehicle, checking it out, and he ended up driving it as part of some reenactment. He made a bunch of observations and documented a bunch of observations, and all those known observations were disclosed. But yesterday, in response to a question on redirect, that's not the initial questions, that's not cross-examination, that's the next batch of questions. He ended up revealing an observation that was not contained in his prior reports that he'd generated here. And it's that observation that I think triggered, one, the objection by the defense, and two, ultimately, the court's decision.
Could you repeat that observation? I know you mentioned it.
Yeah, his observation, my understanding is, and again, I wasn't there for the testimony, I was there for all the argument about it after, was that as he drove the vehicle, in response to a question that Mr. Siers asked, that vehicle felt like it was pulling to the right after the collision.
And which vehicle are we talking about?
This is the truck that struck and killed Cody Donahue.
How many days did this trial last, and before this happened, and how close were you to closing arguments?
I don't think we were close to closing arguments. I think we were in day 3. I think we'd gotten through jury selection, and I think we were in our second day of presentation between opening and witnesses.
And you were expecting it to last how long, do you think?
How many days did we set this for?
If we expected to finish next Tuesday.
I guess we'd expected to finish next Tuesday.
A week and a half, roughly.
Yeah.
Do you know if Trooper Donahue's family plans to stay on the action balance that have been twice now sat through the graphic testimony?
Yeah.
Do they plan to attend?
I have rarely come across people with as much dedication and guts as the Donahue family, specifically Velma. My expectation is, and I have no reason to think otherwise, she will remain steadfastly involved in this case, whatever direction it ends up taking and whatever trial ends up getting set next. I expect her to be an active participant in that, yeah.
Is the defendant still in jail, or is he out on bond?
I think he's been out on bond this whole time. I don't think he's been in jail on this case. What else? Okay, great. Thank you. If there's anything else after this, you just reach out to Vicki. I'll get to you. Okay.